H, welcome to Seattle, Tacoma.
Thank you.
Um, let's just start off with talking to us about your style as a head coach. You've been a bunch of places here over the recent years. How would you describe yourself as a coach, both on the field and off the field?
Yeah, good question. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I appreciate the warm welcome despite the cold and rainy weather in Seattle. But coming from Montreal, it's actually much better. So, but I really appreciate the warm welcome. Yes, I have. I've gotten a lot of experience from different places, worked under a lot of coaches with different styles. The good marriage between myself and the Sounders organization is that our philosophies uh, actually mirror each other. I'm not too far away from the way Brian, Coach Smitzer, decides to operate in his team. I operate exactly the same way. There's just different nuances because of the fact that we don't have the same level of players, but it's very attacking, very aggressively, positively going forward, and we do our best to take care of the ball as much as possible, which is more possession based in the offensive half. And as much as we can keep that ball in that half, we know we're doing a good job both on and off the ball. So a lot of the same thing that you have seen with the Seattle's first team is you're going to see exactly the same thing with Tacoma, with just a couple of different changes in certain pockets, just because of the fact that we have different quality of players.
We'll go next to Masvita.
Yes, sir. Welcome, sir. And so yeah, just kind of on that question a little bit, how are you going to balance, the team winning and the development of the players?
Yeah, good question. First and foremost, my job is to provide players to the first team, and to give Coach Smith as much of a headache as possible. But also based on last year's success, it's also imperative and just my nature to want to win. And here at Seattle, we have a winning culture, and we decide to develop players in a winning culture. So as much as I will be rotating players, giving players a certain chance to get certain experiences, but all of those experiences will be for the sake of winning the game. That's what we want to do as much as possible. But you'll see further younger players coming into my team who are perhaps not quite ready for the first team yet. They'll be training with us. And then also certain players who are on the cusp of the first team and training with the first team, also with us, just because we want to ensure that the development continues, but also at the same time, every single game we want to play, we want to win.
Quick question. Are you at the new Sounders complex there?
No, I'm still at Starfire, but the background is pretty nice, isn't it?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, I'll let others ask. Yeah. All right.
Jeremiah, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. Just wanted to ask your like how you came to the Sounders. They have in the past been pretty like there's a lot of they do a lot of internal promotions. You're obviously coming from outside the organization. What were your knowledge of the organization before, and how did you end up interviewing for the job?
Yeah, first and foremost, the Sounders have a very good reputation outside of Seattle. Everybody in the league knows that. Even myself, being in the Eastern Conference with Montreal last season, we all knew exactly which teams in the league are the teams that we want to emulate in certain ways. And definitely the way they run this organization is top shelf. The way I came about in meeting Craig and the team was I was in between in Montreal. I was in between conversations with the organization because the head coach at the time got let go, and a friend of mine, basically just who works for the MLS, told me that the Defiance were looking for a new head coach, and this could potentially be a good position for me, just because of the fact that the organization is a very healthy one. And I said, of course, I agreed, and put myself forward to the organization. And then at that point, I met everyone, Wade and Henry and Craig, and we had a conversation. And in the span of, I would say, a month or so, we realized that we are a good fit in terms of my personal philosophies and in the club's philosophies. But also, as per my first conversation with Coach Smith, sir, I think the organization wanted somebody from the outside with different ideas, just to ensure that not only is the organization moving forward, but also if there are things that we could add into what the organization is doing, it's good for us. And I definitely love to serve that purpose in terms of just in making sure that the football on the field is progressing forward.
Nico
Thanks.
Moreno.
Hey, Coach, thanks for doing this. I wanted to ask you, with your experience, what have you found to be the best way to develop younger players? And with that said, Seattle has put out some top homegrown players into the first team. Does that provide you with any sort of pressure to kind of replicate what's been happening here in Seattle, that kind of pipeline from whether it's the academy or Tacoma Defiance all the way to the first team?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't give me any pressure because I have developed players in the past, but also I'm coming into a situation where those players who have those potentials to play for the first team are already there. It's just a continuation of what was done in the previous years, but also progressing the process as well. I've worked in a developmental state environment for most of my career. Even last season in Montreal, we had, I think, the second youngest team in the league. So a lot of the work that we were doing was more developmental than the finished product. And that's why this position was appealing to me, just because of the fact that I knew that work that I've been doing and accumulating over the years is going to continue, but also continue in an environment that is a winning culture. And that's exactly what I wanted. So a little bit selfish of me, I want to win, and I understood that the Defiance wanted to win as well. So we met well on that aspect, but also at the same time, still developing players and getting them into the first team, as many as possible.
Great. Couple more on the first round before we go to follow-up. So Dave Clark, I'll go to you next.
Coach, previous Defiance coaches have all put a different kind of imprint on the team, whether it's talent they found out or testing new formations. What's kind of your imprint that comes from outside of the organization that you look forward to adding to Defiance?
Yeah, that will be mostly off the ball. I was indoctrinated through the Red Bull philosophy at that time when Jesse Marsh was still the head coach of Red Bulls, and Chris Armas and Dennis. And in that system of football education, a lot of work off the ball was something that we encoded on a daily basis. And that's an area of the field where I'm extremely commanding of the player's ability to control the game without having the ball. So some of the differences and the nuances you will see in the Defiance is our ability to not only regain possession of the ball as quickly as possible, but also controlling space and aspects of the field and manipulating and influencing the opposition's position just by our movement in different lines and in different channels. It's something that myself and my assistant Mike Morris we agree upon, and it's something an area where we believe, based on last season, this team can definitely improve.
Jessica, go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. First of all, congrats, H, on the new position.
Thank you.
Really quickly, just wanted to ask, what are your goals for the upcoming season?
Good question, Jessica. Naturally, my goal is, first of all, to give Coach Smith as much of a headache as possible and a dilemma as possible. That's one. And then secondly, I'm not afraid to say that we want to win the MLS Pro Cup. I'm not afraid of that. It should be the objective of this team, just based on previous success and last year's success. I think Coach Wade Weber did a fantastic job in putting a team together, and they did extremely well. And that's the reason why so many of those players are with the first team now. It's because of having those ambitions that those players get to be in that environment where they can naturally graduate into the first team. So my agenda is exactly the same. We want to do our best. We are shooting to win the cup, and hopefully that will be the conclusion of the season.
Great, thank you.
All right, we will go back for some follow-up questions. Again, if you'd like to get a question in, please use the hand raise function in Zoom. But we'll go to Jackson Phelps.
Hey, Craig, this one's for Weibel. Really first, quick for you, why H? What made him the right guy for this job?
All right, Jackson, noted. I almost got the repressor without having to talk.
Oh, I got another one for you. I got two. So
here we go. Look, there's a lot of credit deserved by the support staff, and this isn't just rhetoric from me. Corey Sincer, Wade Weber, Sean Henderson, Henry Bronner, these guys, they beat the paths. They found great candidates. They went through 140, 150 resumes. And at the end of the day, what our process was, get it down to 20, get it down to 10, get it down to 5, get it down to 2. We didn't need to talk to all those people because we can do a lot of homework through our networks. And one of the things that stood out on H every single time we called someone, he doesn't know we did all this homework, but every single time we called people, the character check was off the charts of who he is and how he shows up daily. And after we made contact with him and started asking him questions, I mean, his desire to continue to grow, but his desire for continuity, his desire to give other people opportunities, even as this is his first professional head coaching opportunity, to retain Mike Morris and dedicate to helping Mike Morris continue to grow and impact as, those are important cultural pieces that I think he probably did his homework on. And he knew how we valued that, but it's not an act with H. Everything you get is very genuine, and you're gonna find out, like, he really does mean he wants to create headaches. I might say it a little more sugar-coated. In our organization, everyone we have to have the desire to create difficult decisions for the first team. And that's, connecting all the pieces. And H has the most difficult job in this organization, as Wade Weber did for years. You're getting guys 2 days before your game. That's like, okay, here, these 3 guys need to play 75 minutes. And then these are the top 2 or 3 academy players over the last 2 weeks. By the way, they need to play. And so you're always adjusting those things. And so, through the process, we just really liked how calm H was. We really liked his ability to use creativity to work through some of the situations that present themselves. And then obviously he's had the exposures. He's been in an MLS club. He knows exactly how this works, and he knows the ebb and flow of the week. So all of those things add up to a really, really easy decision.
And then I can sneak in with another. I wanted to ask you guys both about Bradilio Rodriguez. With the signing, Craig, of Danny Mazovsky, do you foresee Bradilio continuing to get a lot of minutes at Tacoma? And then for H, what do you, I guess from afar, have you seen from the talent of this kid, and how do you think he can help you if he does play minutes for Defiance? So I know that was kind of a two-parter there, but
mine's easy. I mean, look, in a perfect world, the roster is always healthy, no one's injured, and then it's not just Bradilio, it's Dylan Tevez, it's Danny Leyva, it's Obed Vargas, it's Josh Tensio, it's every player in a depth, Jacob Castro, Andrew Thomas. I mean, go through the roster, and there's 8 guys that hopefully create difficult decisions. Should they be on the first team roster? Should they be playing minutes? And how do we keep them healthy? And that's a dedication. It's something we've talked about as a group, is you're going to see movement on rosters. You're not going to see the same names every week, not starting first team games on the bench.
Yeah.
Those players need to play. And we've been having a lot of conversations this year as to how those rotations happen. And so players like Berdilio, players that are in that development phase, they have to play soccer to get better at soccer. They can't just watch. And so those decisions will be made weekly, bi-weekly, but that'll be very strictly mapped out this year.
Yeah.
And so, every once in a while, the question might come across in your guys' minds, like, wow, why is that guy with Defiance this week? And sometimes the answer is because they haven't played in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they have to play soccer to get better. So that's the easy one. Now H.
No, 100%. And my job is to ensure that when those guys do come play for Defiance, that it's not a walk in the park. The training environment is challenging. It's one that's progressive, it's developmental, and we are fixing the weaknesses that they are having, so that when they jump up back to the first team, they are comfortable, they are composed, and they're intelligent in the way they play for Coach Smitzer. That is my job.
All right, I'll let everyone know both H and Craig have a hard out at 1 p.m. So we got about 10 minutes left at most, but we'll keep going through these hands. Masvita, why don't you take the next one?
All right, let me see. Greg, how important was it for you to hire somebody who can relate to players? Given everything you just said, clearly one of the traits that's needed for that position is someone that can relate and have that, I wouldn't say difficult, but just an honest discussion with players.
Yeah. And if you look at the staff and H is getting to know all of us from a front office perspective, again, the Henry Bronner, Wade Weber, Corey Sensor, Craig Weibel, Sean Henderson, Tyler Cox, John Elsenbass, like all the directors of the departments. What's important is honesty to me. And if you can't be honest with a player, then it snowballs across your locker room, across your organization. So to bring in someone that has the ethical, moral compass to sit down with players and tell them when they're struggling, but articulate it and use rhetoric that builds players, that doesn't destroy players. That's the most important thing right now. Honesty is the only way to challenge people to get better as athletes. They've got a million ways to have people tell them they're the best on earth. All they have to do is go on social media and ask their mom.
Yeah.
But we have to deliver the messages succinctly. We have to support them with video. We have to show our players how they're going to get better, and we have to be dedicated to that commitment. And that's something that Michael Morris and H are both really, really dedicated to, is developing those players to get them to the next level is the goal. And they are hyper-focused on it, and so it fits.
Matt, I went for H, but I'm going to go to the end of the line. If you don't get me, that's fine. So I'll let the other people.
Thanks, Maz. Jeremiah, why don't you take the next one?
Yeah, if you H, if you could just tell us, you've been working with these guys for 2 or 3 weeks. Anyone stood out to you? Anyone that you have been surprised by either way?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I did a pretty extensive homework on them before I arrived, so I know exactly which players I was getting. It was just a matter of which version of the player was coming from having a lot of time off. And I couldn't be more excited by our first week last week. Our first week last week was probably the best first week of preseason I've ever had in my career. A lot of that is thanks to the team that I inherited. Michael Morris has every dot, every cross, every circle managed extremely well. And I knew exactly every profile of every single player when I first walked through the front door. And there's a lot of promising players, on this team. But also my job is to do better than what they did last year. And in order to do that, you have to add certain things into the training environment that is going to keep these guys challenging themselves and also keep the environment challenging. And that's what we've done. We brought in some trialists, and we're going to keep bringing in some trialists who are pushing the envelope. And these guys understand, because of these guys that are training right next to them, they have to be better. They have to get up to scratch as quickly as possible, as safe as possible, and then they have to progress forward in order to continue their developmental journey.
Nico Moreno.
Yeah, this one's for Craig. I had two questions probably outside the box here, but have the club decided where Tacoma Defiance is going to be playing their games? And then two, the Tacoma Defiance name, is that planning to be changed at any time, or Tacoma Defiance is going to stay for a long time, or is that not something that you might know about?
The first one's easy. That one's in my wheelhouse. Until we have this facility completely finished, we haven't made plans to build out any of the current fields for the seating requirements and those things. So we'll stay for the time being. Our plan is to be at Starfire playing games. And in terms of the name, look, we've rebranded in the last year. We're adding pieces. We're in a massive growth phase. And so in terms of the name and the naming rights and all these things, that's well out of my wheelhouse. I leave those things to Taylor Graham to have to answer. But we will still play with 11, and we'll show up, and whatever our name is, our goal is the same.
Thank you, Craig.
You got it.
Got two more hands up. Hopefully we can get to both before we have to cut these guys loose. So Dave Clark, we'll go to you for your follow-up next.
This one's for Craig. Craig, every other coach that's been brought in has opened the organization's eyes to talent in new places. What kind of talent do you think H can help you find?
We use everyone's network. I think the game has changed so much. COVID specifically changed the way you scout and recruit. Technology just jumped and advanced so dramatically. Staffing of MLS first team and second team, you almost had to rely on your coach and their network as well. Hopefully we don't put as much pressure on H to present anything other than some names and some leads for us to get on. But we're a pretty open group. When I get an email, I don't hoard the information. I send it out. When our scouts get emails, we share across the spectrum. So when we build profiles, we start with simplicity. We go, this is what we need, this is what the budget is, and this is what we're looking for. And you guys are going to see in the next 2 weeks, it does not lack ambition. We're going to add a player here in the next 14 days, I think that will, again, expand this scope even more. But we try not to pin too much responsibility on any one person anymore, especially on player identification.
Jess, why don't you take the next one?
Yeah, this one's for H. Just wanted to see how you've been adjusting since arriving to Seattle and with the organization, and what it's been like so far working with the Defiance squad.
It's been fantastic. It's been probably one of my quickest and smoothest transitions. I've transitioned from East Coast to West Coast before. And the club has been extremely helpful and extremely welcoming, and have really done everything for me so I can just focus on the team, my staff, and the players. I literally settled into a place within 1 week that my wife is very happy with as well, which is the most important part. And then eventually, and they'll come join me at the end of the month, and then transition my kids into schooling. But we have a little bit of a network here in Seattle. We know some people over here, so it's going to be a good transition for my whole family.